Hello everyone, welcome back to Tool Tips with Tina. I'm Tina Mitchell with Memories Come to Life, and today I wanted to look at some of our school punches and Boilermaker cartridge so that you could get a good idea of how the border punches work differently than the Boilermaker cartridges. I did a video earlier this week where I showed you all about the Boilermaker cartridges, and so this will be a good comparison. And I decided to use the school ones because two of these are fairly new. They came with the school year's line. We've got hopefully you can see a little bit of glimmer on that to see the pencil. This is the pencil chain. We'll see how that one works. That's a Boilermaker cartridge. And then we have this newer one called Classroom Icons. It's got an apple, a pen, a pencil or crayon, and a globe on there, and it makes a chain. And again, it is called Classroom Icons. And then we have an older one, but it is still available. This is Bookshelf. And so I wanted to show you a couple different ways that these work. So the first thing I want to do is show you some samples that I've made, and then we will make a couple more. So I'm going to get out a piece of white cardstock just so you can see. Well, we'll start with the pencil. Actually, I'm going to punch out the pencils. I did a few the other day. I made some crayons, and then I made the pencil chain. You can make this all the way across. And then there's a single pencil. I did these, again, the crayons, I didn't do anything other than just round the tip when I cut the chain apart. With the pencil, I just cut it apart. I put a little piece of black cardstock there, although you honestly could just color that with a marker. I actually did that on a different one. And then I put red in the little hole that punches out to make it look like an eraser. So probably that standalone pencil might be my favorite. I think it's really cute. So that is the Boilermaker cartridge. We'll take a look at that. We also have, I guess we'll do the other new one next. So this is what the Classroom Icons looks like when you punch it out of one color. And, you know, to make a border with that, to lay it on top of white, to lay it on top of, you know, any other color that goes with your page would look great. You can definitely tell what that is. Those are school icons. If you want to put a little extra time in, this is what I just finished a few minutes ago. And you'll see I punched it out of red because I knew with the eraser and the apple, we were going to have a lot of red. I then did the globe out of blue, and you know, I think if I had to do this again, I'm going to use some of our molten lava paper in the cornflower because that would already have that kind of water look. So I may even go back and replace those or cover those up with that molten lava paper. But first time through, I just used plain cardstock. I used a yellow piece of punch out on top of the pencil, left the red sticking out for the eraser. I did just use our dual tipped black marker on the pencil tips this time rather than cutting out that tiny piece of cardstock. These are pens. I went ahead and colored the tips with our new gold pen, and I just used various shades of our caramel, the hot cocoa, and the black to make the different pen shapes. And then I just left the apple alone, although you could easily put or color, you know, the stem, maybe a little bit of brown. And so I'll probably do that before I actually put this in a page. You can use this as a border across the top, the bottom. You could cut it up and use it under your pictures, things like that. All right, so that is Classroom Icons. And then this is the older one, and it is just the Bookshelf. And so for the Bookshelf, I punched it out in blue and I put it on top of a white strip so that you could see the pages there. And I'm still, you know, this is still a work in progress. I just used some of our, here, the deep sea green and beige, and cut out different chunks of books. Here I did a stack of different colored books. And so I wanted to just kind of see what that would look like. And if I had to do it again, I might have put this on beige or on, you know, caramel so that maybe the pages looked weathered instead of white. But I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Again, you know, as a border, or as embellishments, if you wanted to use smaller sections of the books, that would be great. So I do want to take a minute and punch out some of these with, you know, show you the border maker and the punch. So the border punch, I've not done one of these on here in a video, at least not recently. This is a scrap piece of paper. This doesn't have to be super smooth because we're going to cut the edges off. I'll go ahead and show you under here. You can see this is a chain. Turns out to be a chain punch. I guess technically it's an edge punch, and we'll see that, but I've made mine into chains. So I'll also show you this. These little marks right here are very important. You want to make sure, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, whatever it seems right to you, that you start your paper on one of those edges. It does not make any difference if you started at that end or at that end, but if you started anywhere else, you're going to get not a complete set of the images. So I can see that from here. I'm going to line that up. You just want to put the paper flush against the back edge here. There's a lip, and then you just punch. Slide. I try not to pull it out because sometimes those little delicate things are hard to get back in there. And if you can see over here, we have blue. That dark blue is what we want to cover up. So I just push it against the back and slide it over until I can no longer see much, if any, blue. And then I know I'm ready to punch again. If you get it a little off, you can, you're not going to notice that. I do notice, though, if I start letting this kind of slide out here and not keep the paper up there firm, that's when I start having a little trouble. I get little extra edges of paper I've got to snip off. And so just to save time, I want it to be as clean as possible. I try to push that back. And it doesn't really matter if you hold on to the paper here, if you hold it up here, as long as you've got a hand on it somewhere to keep it straight. So you can see here, there's all my debris. There's really nothing in there that is going to be any use for me. So I usually just will throw that one away. I'll pull this back over. We could easily put that on the bottom of a page and we have a beautiful border. Or we could leave it where it is. I already glued that on, or no, I didn't glue that one on. This could be our actual base paper, and we could just punch out the top, and then if you wanted, then you could put a piece of white strip under there so that you could see that. So it can be an edge punch, but what I have done with all these examples is get out my trimmer. This is a nice flat edge down here, so I'm just going to line that up with my line, snip it off, and there I have a chain border. Okay, so again, that looks great like it is, but we can also then, let me see if I can find the other one that I did. Yeah, so if this is my brown and this is my yellow, and let's say I wanted that yellow pencil, you just trim it off, right? So for the pencil, that's pretty easy, it's straight. For those little globes, I was a little more careful. I think on this one, I'm going to curve it just a little so that it fits around the globe when I'm ready to lay that down. And then I'll go ahead and get that. I used my repositionable tape because if you're familiar with this, you know that it comes out in dots. And so when I run this over, let me make sure I'm using the right side. When I run this over this, it's not going to, oops, I did go a little too far. The other nice thing about our repositionable dots is that, see, they're gone. You can rub them right off. But now I've got the tape on there, or the glued tape, whatever you want to call it. And then you just line it up. Now, at this point, to me, that kind of looks like a crayon. And so I could do yellow, green, blue, red, all the way across. I could also, if I want it to look like a pencil, I could put a piece of, punch this out again in red like I did earlier and put the little eraser on there, put a, black tip on with marker. I didn't do a great job on this one getting it straight, but that's a good opportunity to show you how easily our repo tape runner comes right up, and you can center it a little better, and there we go. Okay, so I'm not going to do that all again, but let's grab that one if I can find it that I had before. You can see, it would take 10 minutes or so to just, punch out several colors of that. I actually kept several of these because I didn't use very many of them. I'll put them in my embellishment box, and then anytime I want to make another one of these, I'll have, various shapes that I can cut out. So that is how the border punch works for this one. Get this out of the way. We did this other one the other day, the pencil one. well, we didn't do the pencil one, but we used the border maker system the other day in a video. Again, this one's just called pencil chain, which means if you remember from the other day, there are 3 types of cartridges. There's the chain, the edge, and the knockout. This is a chain, which means when we are finished, we will have a chain of pencils or crayons, whichever you prefer. I'm going to do the yellow because the yellow we can use as a pencil or a crayon, so I can have choices later on. This, again, is just a scrap. As long as you have a roughly straight edge. This one's a little bit jagged where I cut it, but we're not going to use the edge anyway. So this, remember, has these little teeth. Make sure when you put your cartridge in that the teeth are sticking out, not in, so it doesn't get stuck. Hear that snap. And then super quick. Again, this one's super nice because you don't have to even look. You're not lining anything up. I said that and I got it a little crooked. But it's a chain, so it doesn't really matter. I didn't push that in quite all the way. That's why I've got that a little bit off. So I'm going to actually do it again because I want to use this one as a chain. Now, I got this one a little crooked right here, so if I was just cutting them out to do what I did over here, that would not matter at all. But if I want this to go actually as a border on the edge of my page, I don't want that jagged piece. You know, I could trim that, but then they would still not be lined up, and I'm a little pickier than that. So we're going to do that one again. Oops, I forgot to pull out that little piece off the chain. See what I'm doing here. There we go. All right, it is pushed all the way up this time, so I shouldn't have that issue again. And you can see we always get this little strip that's left over, but now I actually have a nice smooth chain of pencils or crayons, whichever look you're going for. Let me clean up a little bit, and I'm not going to be able to get all that. Let's see. Okay, we've still got some more over here. Again, there's really, you know, some people will keep lots of little pieces like that. I'm not like that. If I want that little piece for something, I will punch it out again later. It's just paper. Okay, so again, you can see what I did with this one. This looks great like it is. Just, you know, put on the paper in whatever color. You could do a rainbow of colors, do 2 or 3 and put them together. You could punch out these different ones and make them into markers. Here, I'm going to show you on this one. You know, if I wanted to keep these, let's say I want to make them into a pencil, I'm just going to cut it straight along that edge. I'm going to turn it over. Straight along this edge, and I now have a pencil point. I would then just, you know, cut this one off the end. There's my pencil. If I wanted it to be more of a crayon, I can actually use this one. Well, that might be a little bit of a dull crayon, but we're just going to round the edge off. And now we have more of that crayon look. Okay, you can put those on white paper. You could pick, you know, another paper. You could, again, do the little eraser. Or, you know, those look great on different color backgrounds as well. All right, so hopefully you've seen something here today. I really love both of these new punches are amazing. I like the bookshelf punch as well. So if you are doing back to school pictures right now, I'm doing back to school pictures, but my back to school pictures are from about 15 years ago because that's how far behind I am in my scrapbooking. But if you're doing anything like that, these punches are amazing. You can use them, you know, I've used like bright primary colors more for elementary school, but these punches go with the school years line, which is really more of a high school, college age look. So you could definitely make these pencils maybe in a little bit more muted tones to go with that a little bit better. So before I get off of here, let me put a couple of these examples back over here so that, you know, if you want to screenshot anything and be like, oh, I like that idea, you can see those choices. And then here is the bookshelf as well. All right, I hope you guys are having a great week, and I'm going to actually have an unboxing here in a little while. So also the virtual crop starts tonight, so check that out if you haven't done that before. and I hope you have a great weekend.